All right, folks, we are live on this Sunday afternoon or evening for some folks. So, what I've got planned for today, just your tropical update. We're going to look at both Imelda and Humberto out in the Atlantic, as well as just go through your weather forecast for the continental United States and just do a general outlook of things to come. Okay. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. So we've got two rotating storms out there in the Atlantic Basin. We've got Hurricane Humberto, a very powerful Category 4 hurricane. We've also got Tropical Storm Imelda now, as it has just become a tropical storm this afternoon as of the 2 p.m. Eastern Time advisory. Okay. So very recently got that upgrade from Tropical Depression 9. And with that being said, we're going to be tracking its impacts. And we've been watching it all day, of course, on satellite. And I want to do a little bit deeper of a dive here. So this is what it looks like zoomed in on satellite. You see we have the center down here. Here's Imelda. Okay, most of the convection right now north of the center. Okay, very exposed eye down there, nothing really south of it. So most of the convection north of the center, fairly typical for these storms in their early stages. And something I forgot to mention on the previous slide, Hurricane Humberto, by the way, we're not going to do a whole lot of analysis on that storm because it is staying out over the open Atlantic, which is good because of its intensity. Okay, that is good news. Now the bad news is Imelda is going to bring us some impacts here in the continental United States as well as direct impacts in the Bahamas. So we're going to go back to the slide we were on and we're going to look at that some more. So we see all these thunderstorms blowing up on satellite north of the center, and that has corresponded with that upgrade of Tropical Depression 9 to become Tropical Storm Imelda, okay, getting that upgrade at the 2 p.m. Eastern Time advisory. And you can see much of that convection already spreading over a lot of the Bahamas, including places like Freeport, Nassau, okay, even approaching parts of South Florida, places like Miami, even going up towards Vero Beach, and starting to mix with just your normal daytime thunderstorms, helping to enhance those. So without further ado, though, we're going to keep tracking that. And I want to go ahead and get into the latest advisory since we have it now. It is 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 o'clock on the East Coast. It is 4 o'clock here at the studio. And so with Tropical Storm Imelda, not really much has changed since the last advisory. Winds are still at 40 miles per hour sustained. Pressure has also not changed at all since the intermediate advisory, okay. It's still at 998 millibars. Now that did come down by about 4 millibars in 3 hours when the storm was upgraded at 2 p.m. Eastern. Now the one change that we have seen in there is we have seen the storm start to pick up speed a little bit, moving to the north now at 9 miles per hour instead of 7. So it is picking up speed, and it will likely start to accelerate in its track as we go forward in time, especially as it starts to interact with the jet stream that starts to carry it off its initial course a little bit. So I want to time this out. So going forward, we see winds starting to pick up for places like Freeport as well as Miami as we go through the night. Okay, and as the circulation approaches Freeport, okay, you see those winds even topping 40 miles per hour. And they even increase from there as the storm continues to strengthen overnight and pass further by. You see wind gusts closing in on 60 miles per hour in some cases there in the Bahamas. And that's why those tropical storm warnings are up for much of those islands. And you also see winds getting very gusty in places like Miami, and as we go forward in time as well in places like Jacksonville, going further up the coast, up to places like Charleston, okay? And we will even see those winds become almost up to tropical storm force in terms of the gusts, perhaps, as we go through the day on Monday, and that circulation spins just offshore. We'll see several rain bands come ashore from North Florida, or Northeast Florida, I should say, up through South Georgia and even into the Carolinas, okay? And with that being said, very gusty winds too, closing in on tropical storm force, and that's why we have a tropical storm watch in effect for parts of the continental United States. So I want to go back really quick to the previous slide and make one more point. And so what you see over here now is these last few slides. If I back this up, okay, if I back this up, and you see the storm start to make its way off towards the east, and that is indicative of that jet stream picking it up. Okay, there's a little subtropical sort of piece of the jet that comes into relevancy here, and that starts to carry the storm off of its northward trajectory and actually straight towards Bermuda, or even pushing it a little bit south of Bermuda. It's looking like on some of those more recent model runs. So Bermuda may even spare a direct hit, but still something they need to watch as well going forward. But with all that being said, so very gusty winds as well as very heavy rain for portions of the Bahamas for sure, up to in that 12 to 16 inch range in places like Freeport in the Bahamas. Okay, some of these islands in that red indicating up to 16 inches of rain from the storm, and as well as much of the East Coast from West Palm Beach going up along the North Florida, Georgia, and Carolina coastline. Okay, you see very enhanced rainfall amounts, not super heavy because again we are avoiding the direct impacts from the storm, but we will still see enhanced rainfall as those rain bands come onshore as the storm passes to the east. And another big hazard with this storm is the rip current risk. Okay, and that's probably the most probably the biggest hazard with this storm right now is the potential for very deadly and dangerous rip currents occurring along the eastern seaboard. Okay, you see a very high risk indicated from Miami going up through Daytona Beach, St. Augustine, Jacksonville, even going up towards the New Brunswick, Savannah area. Okay, and as we go through the day tomorrow, that risk area enlarges significantly. Okay, as that storm starts to pull northward, that risk area enlarges very significantly, going all the way up towards the Kill Devil Hills, Kitty Hawk, Virginia Beach area. Okay, very dangerous conditions all along the eastern seaboard here tomorrow, and that continues into Tuesday and even the middle of the week as well. So this whole first half of the week or so, just if you can, stay out of the water. If you go to the beach, either stay out of the water or just be very careful. If you do go in the water, okay, watch those waves. Those waves are going to be very big, very dangerous. You see very significant swells. You can also see possibly some coastal overwash in some areas, some low-lying places, especially in this sort of area here. Okay, this little bend of the coastline there, having that concave coastline can lead to some water getting channeled in places like Georgia. So be very careful with that as that circulation spins offshore. That's more of a hazard probably tomorrow and into Tuesday, as the storm will be more up that way as opposed to this evening. But now is the time. Go ahead and make your preparations if necessary for these places in the southeast, because again, Imelda's impacts are going to be on your doorstep tomorrow and going into Tuesday. So if you have time today, you know, it's still the weekend, you can maybe get something done if whatever you need to do. Again, talking about very gusty winds, and nothing that is real significant, but still gusty enough to, you know, if you live in a trailer park or something like that, you know, things that can be slightly hazardous. Okay, even you know, wind gusts, they're capable of taking down, you know, some pine trees, some trees that are not rooted very well. You know, that is also possible. Okay, so if you have any tree branches that, you know, you've been meaning to cut down for a while that are kind of a little bit of a hazard, and you know they're a hazard, you may want to go ahead and take care of that today while the sun's still shining and you can get out there before some of those stronger wind gusts push on shore with some of those outer rain bands. But with that being said, that's really all there is to say about Imelda right now. There's still some things that are to be anticipated in terms of the forecast. We're not sure exactly how strong the storm will get. We do anticipate it strengthening into a hurricane. We don't know how strong of a hurricane because at any point between now and when it crosses over the Bahamas and when it gets up towards this area up here, okay, at any point in that time it could hit one of these Grossbergs, one of these rapid intensification patterns over the open Atlantic here and balloon up in intensity, just like we saw it, rapidly dropped in pressure from 1002 to 998 in just 3 hours around lunchtime today. Okay, bringing it up to tropical storm status. The same thing could happen on a little bit longer, larger scale. And bring it all the way up to hurricane status. And that is anticipated in the current National Hurricane Center track. We do anticipate a high-end Category 1 hurricane when it is spinning just off the coast of Jacksonville tomorrow and going into Tuesday. But with that being said, we're going to take a quick commercial break. But when we come back, summer is still hanging around for much of the Midwest. But could that come to an end and change?
Hey guys, I usually don't do this, but I've been so impressed by this bad boy that I just had to share. So we had an ice storm just a few weeks ago, the biggest one I've ever seen in my life, and our power was out for 18 full hours, and that's crazy with little kids. Luckily, I had bought this thing ahead of time. It's called the Grid Doctor 3300, and I got it from MyPatriotSupply. It's a company I've shopped with a little bit in the past, but this thing is amazing. So like I said, we had the craziest ice storm I've ever seen in my life, and power went out for 18 hours, and it started at 6:30, the power outage. So we got little kids, and as you can imagine, they were just like completely freaked out, and we were able to get this thing going, which I'd never used before. We just got them. So first thing we did is it's got some ports up here. We plugged in a couple of lamps. We gathered the kids around. We explained to them what was going on because of the first power outage that they'd ever seen. They're really little. Yeah, we were able to calm them down because of the light that we had from this thing. But it didn't stop there because we kept using it. So once we had light, next thing we did is we got some heat. So I have an old space heater, but the thing like sucks up power. We brought it in, plugged it in. I wasn't sure if it was going to run or not, but sure enough, turned the thing on and it ran. So we're able, while our neighbors all around us were in the dark, freaking out, texting each other, we had light and we had power and our kids were totally calm. In fact, we plugged this thing into our microwave and we were able to make popcorn. We plugged our television in. We had like multiple appliances going. We had like a little movie night. We turned something that's really scary for the kids into this kind of fun little experience. And it was all because this thing was in our home. Yeah, so my wife will tell you I'm a complete dummy when it comes to anything technical, so I was a little bit worried. In fact, I called ahead of time to make sure that this thing had all the features and that I'd be able to run it because it's going to be worthless to us if I can't operate it. And the customer service was super nice, and they assured me that it was super simple, and so I got it in the mail, and sure enough, you plug it into a wall outlet. It also has a solar panel, which we didn't end up using in this case because we already had it charged up. But yeah, it ran, and you just plug stuff in and it works. It's amazing. Also, when you get something like this online, you can never be sure, like if you're dealing with some like random company in China, but I called them to ask them about some of the features to make sure that it had everything we needed and it wouldn't be too hard for me to use. And I was super happy and surprised actually when a person in the United States picked right up. We had a conversation and they were so helpful. They answered all my questions. They even called back once the thing arrived, which by the way, it arrived in like 2 days. It was amazing. They called me back and just to follow up, to see if we had any questions. I am not used to that kind of treatment, even from companies here in the U.S., so I was super excited about that. So we've been ordering online forever and ever, and this thing was fast, like honestly faster than Amazon Prime. They said 2 days and actually got here that quickly. One of the things that they explained to me when I was on the phone with them is that there is a disaster replacement warranty, which means that if the product, and it's totally free, first of all, but if the product is knocked out in any type of natural disaster, like a big flood or earthquake or whatever, which we do have out here, they'll replace it and totally free, and it'll last for 25 years. Yeah, I was super thrilled about that. We'll definitely be going back to my Patriot Supply to purchase more stuff to get prepped, because you can never be ready enough. So I would recommend, if you want to get prepared for power outages, this is the unit you need. I've been telling my parents, I've been telling my friends, I'm going to tell you now, like, I have absolutely no complaints. Top to bottom was a great experience.
Have you considered a career in meteorology? Would you like to learn how to forecast the weather? Would you like to learn how to take scientific observations from your own backyard? We have courses on the books for that. The Red Weatherman YouTube channel has partnered with Velatropa 24 Ventures to offer several online courses in meteorology. Taught by a live instructor, these courses dive deep into various weather patterns and how observations you can take from your house are integrated into weather maps and forecast models to predict what the atmosphere will do next. For a limited time, some courses are available at 50% off, but that won't last long, so sign up today using the links in the description.
All right, folks, we are back, and thank you for sticking with us here on the Red Weatherman YouTube channel. So I want to shift gears now to instead of taking a look at the tropics, now I want to take a look at the upper Midwest. And those of you who live in the Midwest, Great Plains area of the country know that in the last several weeks we've had very unseasonably warm weather. Okay, that summer pattern still sticking around even as we approach October 1st here, okay? Now, there is a chance that that could change as we go forward in time, but there's no clear answer yet. I just want to make that very clear. There's no definite answer yet in terms of when that fall pattern that we all know of will finally kick in for much of the Midwest, okay? But this is a snippet I took from the GFS model. This is valid at Sunday, October 5th at 1 a.m. Central Time. Okay, so a week from today at 1 a.m. Central Time. So we basically have this low that develops east of the Rockies in Colorado, tracks through the upper plains and eventually into Canada, brings about some rain, some thunderstorms for the upper plains and Midwest as we go through the early part of not this upcoming week, but the following week, okay, and then followed by much cooler temperatures. Now, how much cooler? That remains to be seen. Okay, we've seen a lot of conflicting results from some of the model runs. Okay, some of the model runs recently have shown temperature drops all the way down to the sub-freezing level for parts of the Dakotas, Nebraska, the upper Midwest. Okay, and some of the models don't really show much of a temperature drop at all. Okay, barely enough to warrant needing a jacket maybe for a few hours that Monday morning or something, or Sunday morning. Okay, but in terms of that, we'll continue to monitor on this channel. We may end up doing another live stream later on this week, but as always, I appreciate all of you tuning in and thank you for watching. As always, be sure to like the stream down below, subscribe if you haven't done so already. And a lot of times people get confused. Okay, subscribe does not mean paying for anything. It's not like some of the other things I've promoted on this channel today. Okay, subscribing is absolutely free. All you need is a Gmail account, but it really helps us out. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and also share the stream with your friends and family, especially those who live in any of the affected areas that I've went through today. So with that being said, thank you for watching, and I will see you all on the next stream.